Hey everybody, wanted to do a quick lesson video on using tritone substitutions in your soloing. So if you're not familiar with what a tritone substitution is, it's a really simple concept that can get you some outside sounds on a 2-5-1. So if you take, for example, dominant 7th chord, we use G7. So the 7th and the 3rd of this chord, F and B natural, are going to be the 3rd and the 7th of a chord that's a tritone above. So you go from G up to D flat, and you'll see that exact same shape of F and B. That's just going between the two there. So, you know, that kind of opens up some really interesting opportunities for using substitutions that I discussed in a video from a while ago on just playing outside on a static chord, but just applying this to a chord progression. A lot of times, you know, you'll see like YouTube videos and stuff that'll say like, okay, if you have a 2-5-1 in C major, D minor 7, G7, C major 7, you can sub that G7 out for a D flat 7. All right, get this nice voice leading chromatically on top of D minor 9 with E on top, D flat 9 with E flat on top, and then C major 9 with D on top. And if you were to take that a step further, you know, a lot of times the tension that you'll see for the 4th degree of the scale is going to be a sharp 11 or a sharp 4, right? So that kind of progression, that's D minor 11 with the 9 and G on top, D flat 9 with the sharp 11, G on top, and then like C major 6-9 with G on top. So the issue when you apply that to soloing, I should preface this by saying that I think that that's cool for, you know, if you're doing arrangements or reharmonizations of tunes. The tritone stuff can be a helpful way of like getting some, just kind of going outside of the box, I guess, a little bit. But when you apply that logic to soloing, like say if I were to take those chord scales, for example, and this is kind of one of the super tacky things I think about chord scales, but if I have D minor 7, I could use like a Dorian minor sound. Here with this D flat 9 with the sharp 11, that belongs to what's called Lydian dominant. So this is going to be the 4th mode of A flat melodic minor. The issue with this is that that's the same collection of notes as G altered, so the altered scale. So by soloing and thinking of, you know, using this D flat sharp 11 sound for the flat 2, you're basically just playing an altered 5 chord, right? So G7 altered is the same as A flat melodic minor as well. So you hear kind of the same sort of weight to both of those chords. Something that you can try out that's actually a little bit more idiomatically appropriate, if you will, is just going to be using like a regular dominant sound for this tritone sub. So if I'm soloing, I'm thinking of D minor 7 to this D flat 7, rather than thinking of using that sharp 11 on top, I'll just play lines that imply like this natural 11 or natural 4 sound, then move to C major 7. And you'll hear this a lot in bebop. You know, you might hear like Charlie Parker play one idea over the 2 chord, and then he'll just move it up, you know, a tritone to fit like that D flat 7 sound, or like even A flat minor to D flat 7 would be connecting the 2 to that substitute 5. So I prepared a couple of phrases just to kind of get the sound of this in your ears. And, you know, I think through like writing a bunch of phrases and like writing etudes and lines over tunes, you can kind of train yourself to use this more naturally, or kind of just without thinking about it when you're in the moment improvising. So on all of these phrases, I'm going to be using just, you know, regular inside like bebop vocabulary on the 2 minor 7 chord. So Dorian or, you know, whatever scale you want to think of there. And then on the 5 chord, I'm going to be playing lines that imply A flat minor 7 to D flat 7, or sometimes just D flat 7 moving to C major 7. So here's the first phrase. So if you wanted to take this concept a little bit further of using substitute dominant seventh chords, like I mentioned earlier in the video, I have a video that I did like a year ago or so that's talking about using substitutions mostly over a static chord, but basically all the same stuff is going to apply to playing over chord progressions. So there are basically three main ideas that I talked about. One was taking like this static chord, so we'll use G7 as this example, and playing minor thirds away from this to create, you know, outside sounds. So G7, B flat 7, you'll notice D flat 7, that's our tritone sub, and then E7. Those are all going to give you varying degrees of tension against a G7. And I would, you know, freely use all of those over a 2-5-1. So I might do one measure of D minor 7 into one measure of B flat 7. Or one measure of D minor 7 into one measure of E7 into C major 7. I can also, you know, kind of mix and match if I want. Maybe I could even start with an outside substitution and move to the inside chord. So like, you know, E7 to D flat 7 to G7 and then to C major 7. Another idea is major third substitution. So this is kind of just the same idea. You have G7, B7, and E flat 7. And then with those, you basically have the same, you know, logic that you can apply to it. So I could do a 2-5-1 in C, and maybe I'll choose like, okay, E flat 7 to B7 to C major 7. Or maybe B7 to G7 and then to C major 7. All those create like really interesting voice leading, both in your chord voicings and in your lines too. And then the last one was using side slipping. So this is just playing up a half step or down a half step from the written chord. So you'll see this pop up in like in some bebop tunes and hard bop tunes. This idea of the contiguous 2-5. So if I have D minor 7, G7, the contiguous 2-5 is just going to be playing a half step below that, and then playing the original 2-5 going into C major 7. You'll see people do that as a substitute on some tunes, like if you have the, you know, flat third of the 2 chord and the flat 7 of the 5 chord in the melody, you know, you could sub that out for E flat minor 7, so that's a half step above, another contiguous 2-5. Right. You'll see that in like Moment's Notice, Stablemates. People will do that as a substitution on Have You Met Miss Jones as well. But it really opens up some interesting harmonic colors, basically. So that's how to use a tritone substitution, as well as some other substitutions that you can use over a 2-5-1 piece.